For those of you who are joining the webinar right now, we're going to give it a couple of minutes to let everybody file into the room, so to speak, and then hopefully we'll get this kicked off 2 or 3 minutes after the hour. So we still have a couple of people coming into the room here, but we'll kick this off at 12:03 East Coast time. All right, it looks like I think we've got everybody here in the room. Dennis, if you could just advance to the first slide, that'd be great.
Sounds good.
So hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're tuning in from here. Like to kick off this ONUG webinar sponsored by Lightyear. Title is Simplifying Telecom Procurement and Management with AI, Automation, and Data. And our speaker today is Dennis Thankachan, and he is the CEO and co-founder of Lightyear. Dennis is going to be talking about an interesting topic here, which is the challenge of not just designing and operating wide area networks, but all the issues associated with procuring and managing wide area network services. This is a market that's, you know, been active for decades. But what's interesting here is with the advent of the transition from MPLS to SD-WAN services, and now SD-WAN services evolving into network as a service. What was already complicated, I think, is actually becoming more complicated. And so I think the pain points that Dennis is going to speak to here and the solutions that Lightyear offers to address those pain points are probably more relevant than ever. So I'm going to hand this over to Dennis. Just before I do that, though, I do want to remind folks, if you do have questions, drop them into the chat, and we'll have time for some Q&A towards the end of the webinar after Dennis does a short product demo. So with that, let me hand it over to you, Dennis.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stephen, for moderating this and for doing this webinar with me. Excited to chat here to the ONUG audience. As Stephen mentioned, my name is Dennis. I'm the CEO and co-founder at Lightyear. Lightyear is a pretty young company. We're almost exactly 5 years old now. Today we have over 300 customers, and we've raised a good amount of venture capital today. Prior to founding Lightyear, I fell into telecom and networking as an investor. I was a telecom and enterprise software investor at a $10 billion hedge fund called Point State Capital, and previously did investment banking at Goldman Sachs. But as Stephen mentioned, today we're here to talk about how to drive network optimization with automation, data, and AI. And although network optimization, network procurement, and network vendor management has always been a huge pain, it is true that some of the solutions we're proposing here are a little bit timely, given now people are getting enthralled with network automation once again. And also AI is very timely, and there are a number of sort of network transformations going on with new network topologies being offered by major vendors. So let's talk about it. Um, why did we even start Lightyear in the first place, and why did I choose to focus on this problem? Well, as everyone in the audience is probably well aware, telecom vendors, the ones who sell you things like your internet circuits, your WAN circuits, data centers, phone systems, they don't really operate with the customer in mind. And how that plays out is oftentimes all of the workflows around managing an enterprise network, whether it be quoting related, install management related, tracking renewals, ticketing, it requires a lot of manual and offline workflows with lots and lots of follow-up for IT or networking teams to manage. Um, Decisions at the enterprise are often made without objective data in hand around networking because you don't really have transparency into vendor serviceability, fiber availability, optimal pricing, vendor performance, and a bunch of other factors that you theoretically want to have in hand when making decisions. And enterprises operating at any scale often face difficulties keeping track of what is in their network, such as service details, contract information, renewal dates, MPO details, configuration details, and the like, and often using spreadsheets or homegrown systems, if anything, which requires a lot of labor to manage. And you add all of these issues up, and it tends to mean a lot of inefficiency for the enterprise when buying and managing telecom, which costs directly and indirectly lots of time and money. And enterprises, those like all of you in the audience, will take several different approaches to telecom procurement and vendor management, but they all unfortunately have their flaws. Most often, we see companies managing telecom procurement, vendor management, bill payment all in-house with direct provider relationships. And this does give the enterprise the most control over their network and their network decision making because there's no third party involved. But it is the most human capital intensive of the approaches to vendor management and telecom management, and also requires the most work to gather data to make decisions, which can be painful or sometimes lead to issues. Enterprises can also leverage various third parties for help with this problem, but they all lack a data-driven approach. They all have hidden incentives and costs that can be introduced that can be bad for enterprise decision making. And oftentimes they all employ a one-time rather than continuous approach to network optimization. And that's sort of the quick summary of like the problem that we're trying to address with Lightyear. And that's what motivated me to found Lightyear 5 years ago. And Lightyear is a software product that we call the Telecom operating system. So what that means is Lightyear has software that acts as a platform to digitize and automate the full lifecycle for your telecom services, built around continuous and systematic cost optimization. And once again, just to clarify what I mean when I'm talking about telecom services, I mean your internet circuits, WAN circuits, data center services, co-location services, and your phone systems. And the Lightyear software system comes with a few major components. First, we have procurement software that allows you to digitally create telecom RFPs when you need a new service or you want to replace an existing service. And it'll conduct an exhaustive vendor search for those services, aiming to get you the best possible pricing with also network intelligence to validate and meet all of your technical requirements. And this is backed by the best data set in telecom that we've put together. Second, Lightyear has a network inventory manager that acts as a digital system of record for your network inventory, eliminating the need to utilize things like spreadsheets or homegrown systems to track your network. And also it'll automate things like handling renewals and rebidding prior to renewals, placing certain types of tickets. And we can actually also onboard your existing network inventory to this system of record as well for your benefit. And then throughout all of this, Lightyear's team acts as an extension of your networking team, providing you with dedicated white glove support around implementations, network engineering decisions, even things like KMZ review, renewals, service changes, and more. And why is it worth your time to hear me talk about this? Well, businesses who leverage Lightyear are spending 70% less time on telecom procurement and vendor management and are reducing cost by 20% or more in this area with continuous long-term optimization in mind, because you're leveraging the most fulsome carrier network in the industry, over 1,200 carriers, and the most fulsome data set in the industry, now over 1 million price quotes and growing every single day. And just to dig into our feature set and the components of the platform, there are two core components of the Lightyear platform with an add-on that I'll go into in the next page. So first, there is our procurement platform, and this powers the creation of RFP and management of procurement through install for net new telecom services, whether it be buying a new circuit or bulk buying many circuits at one time. Our procurement suite allows you to create digital RFPs that'll conduct exhaustive vendor searches backed by the best data set in the industry to ensure that you get the best vendor fit for your both technical specifications and need at the right cost every time. It also includes built-in project management software that will track each component of your telecom install, because we know circuit installs are very, very painful to manage, powering requests and installs for one service at a time, or bulk requests for 1,000 services all at once if you'd like, and everything in between. Throughout procurement, once again, our team will act as an extension of your team, providing you with help around network engineering support, install escalation help, and anything else you may need help with. Post-install, Lightyear's Network Inventory Manager acts as the centralized system of record for your enterprise network, and it digitally tracks over 30 unique data points for each service in your telecom network, such as things like your contract start and end dates, your SLAs, your vendor contact information, your static IPs, and much more. So, if you have an outage and you need to know who to call and what's my account ID, that's all in one place and organized for you proactively. The Network Inventory Manager also automates many service renewal workflows, such as contract renewal reshopping, non-emergency ticketing, and more to save you time and money on your network. And it's worth noting that our procurement software is free to use. You can literally go to lightyear.ai, create an account, and trial the software today. And our Network Inventory Manager is provided for free for services procured via Lightyear. So if you buy a service in the platform, you also get Network Inventory Manager for that service for free. And for services not purchased via Lightyear, we can onboard those services for you and we'll charge a SaaS fee. It's also, as an add-on to our Network Inventory Manager, we have a bill consolidation service that offers basically a service that will take in all of your telecom vendor bills. We will become the payer of record for those bills, and we will give you just one simple consolidated bill that's organized in the way that's best for your enterprise, whether there be site codes or expense allocations that are noted. You just pay us one bill, and we will handle all the vendor payments on the back end, and we'll help you allocate costs accurately, proactively audit your service and eliminate missed payments and service disruptions. So this is a software service that we sell as an add-on to the Network Inventory Manager.
Yeah, Dennis, could you maybe elaborate just a little further on some, specific pain points, involved in just managing, auditing, disputing bills? Because this is probably a often overlooked aspect of wide area network management.
Yeah, so can be often overlooked, but also can be expensive to deal with. So when you have a wide area network with lots of vendors, that also means you have a wide area network with lots of bills. The bills may come to you in multiple different forms, whether it be email, whether it be in a portal, whether it be sometimes sent by mail and require different payment methods. And staying on top of this is important because there are a couple of major issues that can occur. One, if you don't pay a vendor bill on time, they can shut off your service, and that can be extremely costly to the enterprise. That sometimes can happen just because a bill was missed. And then two, especially for services that may involve usage-based billing or variable billing of any sort, there are lots and lots of errors that are made on bills that oftentimes will favor the vendor and not favor the customer. And auditing those bills can be very labor intensive, but it actually can be a necessary service. So, you get the bill consolidation service along with Network Inventory Manager. You can avoid the risk of missed payments and service disruption, allocate costs accurately, and also make sure that your bills are audited, and will proactively open disputes for you. And all of that will just be in like a software dashboard for you to review. But it'll save you a lot on labor and also some money as well.
Good, thanks.
So quickly just outlining how things work for the life cycle of a single service with Lightyear quickly. And I'm going to do a demo at the end of this, so that'll explain it much better. But basically, let's say you need to buy a new circuit. Well, you can log into Lightyear, and then our procurement suite will allow you to online create an RFP for a single circuit or even a multi-node WAN in seconds, after which our network intelligence will run an exhaustive RFP for that service. You will get back carrier quotes, and those carrier quotes will be pre-vetted and potentially pre-negotiated down based on our data set, after which you can select carriers digitally with all the information in front of you, such as costs, underlying infrastructure, install timelines, SLAs, and much more. Circuit implementations will then be project managed via Lightyear's install project management software, where dates, responsibilities, and job steps are tracked, and issues are auto-escalated proactively. Post-installation, all of your Lightyear service details can be viewed digitally in our Network Inventory Manager, and you can open things like move, add, or change tickets or SLA breach tickets via the system. And then as contracts reach expiry, the Lightyear platform will automatically request renewal bids to ensure that your costs are optimized over time, and then the process can repeat itself. And again, I'll go through this further in the demo. We also can do bulk site procurement, where we can actually take that strategy that I just outlined to you for a single service and provide you a project management team to manage strategy around procurement of tens, hundreds, or even thousands of services at one time, where we think about the quantity of vendors to bid to, your specific network requirements, and the outcomes that you desire. So we can provide you a project managed software experience for the procurement of many, many circuits at one time, because that can be different than an individual circuit. And we can provide you everything in between as well. Today, we are only 5 years old, but Lightyear works with over 300 enterprises of all sizes across industries, ranging from companies in the Fortune 50, some of which you can see here, to smaller regional businesses. And you can see here we have customers that work with us across all sectors, whether it be real estate, retail, technology, logistics. We work with everybody. We also have access to over 1,200 telecom carriers spanning the globe.
Yeah, Dennis, I talked about this a little bit at the outset, but within the ONUG community, we've got some, very large corporations, multinationals, or companies that have grown rapidly through acquisitions. And, the net result is they might be operating a half a dozen different wide area networks, or even, maybe even twice that. So, in a world where everything was maybe all MPLS, that was painful. But now I look at it, you've got MPLS. You might have started to implement CPE-based SD-WANs, but now those are moving sort of network service-based SD-WANs. And now this new thing, network as a service, is on everybody's radar screen. So it seems to me kind of like it's going to get worse before it gets better. So maybe you could talk about the value of Lightyear in that context.
Yeah. So, Stephen, to your point, you bring up a great point. Back in the day when MPLS was sort of the norm for an enterprise wide area network, it was more common to use a single vendor for all of your telecom that would provide you a fully managed telecom network. And some enterprises still do that, or some form of that. However, more often, whether it be via just no SD-WAN and internet underlay plus certain types of WAN circuits, whether it be via SD-WAN with internet underlay, whether it be via network as a service, whether it be via some permutation of those things, or a hybrid cloud, multi-cloud. You can pick your architecture. Enterprises have more options for network vendors and network topologies than ever before. And more frequently, we witness enterprises utilizing more than one vendor, sometimes many vendors, and sometimes many, many vendors. And the thing is, if that is true, that means you're probably dealing with more vendor pains around procurement, install management, bidding, installs, and billing. And that is where a product like Lightyear, we are completely technology agnostic. We will never, ever make a recommendation to an enterprise on what you should do with your network, because that is your choice. And that's what all you network engineers are paid the big bucks to handle. But whatever you want to achieve with your network, we can help you achieve that with far more ease. And that is more timely in today's network ecosystem where you have many more vendor options than perhaps in the past.
Great, great.
And quickly, before getting to a demo, it's worth noting, like, here are a few different enterprise customer stories we work with, and very different enterprises with very different networks and network needs. And despite that, they've all actually seen similar benefits and results in working with Lightyear. So Quantix and Roadrunner, those are $2 billion+ revenue logistics companies with hundreds of circuits and lots of facilities underlying their network with stringent performance standards. They moved away from MPLS network to an SD-WAN overlay, an internet underlay with some also WAN circuits underneath as well, and also moved from on-premise voice to a cloud-based voice system, which is a network transformation that requires hundreds and hundreds of procurement cycles for their teams to have handled. They were able to offboard that fully to Lightyear, where Lightyear helped them achieve their desired network transformation and achieve significant cost savings and improvements in network performance without the labor involved to get that done. The platform and our team was able to help them achieve this without their IT team having to do as much manual labor with vendor outreach. Five Guys, obviously large restaurant chain, they utilize us for network inventory tracking and contract management. And they actually, in the context of onboarding their network inventory to Lightyear, were able to identify spend on something like 50 or 60 different services for stores that no longer exist. And that gave them a 12x ROI within 60 days of onboarding the network inventory. And Pandora Jewelry has over 2,000 global locations. They use us for ongoing network procurement at many, many stores. They're also turning up stores, turning down stores. And that's where they achieve over 70% time savings and 20% or more cost savings. So finally, just before I get into the demo, it's worth noting that no other solution completely digitizes and automates telecom procurement. We are the only one in the market doing this, and we automate your procurement and management workflows. So we'll, save you time there. We'll ensure that you make data-driven decisions, and we'll give you one unified system of record for your enterprise network that ties to this automation as well. So goal is to save you time and money, and I look forward to showing you the product now. But really quickly, I see we have a couple of questions.
Yeah, there's a couple of good ones that came in. One of them said, can you speak to the average savings your software are able to achieve using your system to collect quotes? I think you've just sort of spoke to that, but maybe you can elaborate.
Yeah, so first question we received is, can you speak to the average savings that your software and negotiating people are able to achieve when using our system to collect quotes? So, what we guide is 20% or more as possible savings here. And that has a lot of variance. So for example, if we're dealing with a network that hasn't had meaningful change in years, or you're migrating off of MPLS, we can go way higher than 20%. We've seen, 50, 60, 70% savings before, but that tends to tie to more legacy, maybe more expensive services. Let's say you want to upgrade your network and improve performance and have add-ons. That's where maybe you may have significant upgrades in network performance, but less actual savings. The thing that I would say is we utilize data to drive the best possible outcome within the confines of what is desired. So that is where, 20% or more is very viable, but it's an average with a lot of variance. So, like I understand that's a little bit of a non-answer, but it's important to note that the constraints on the specific circumstance can deal with things. Oh, we're getting a lot of questions now.
Well, the next question I thought was the bill consolidation. What if they already have existing links, co-location bills, et cetera? How can they migrate them to your platform? So it's sort of a, how do they kind of transition question?
Absolutely. So for bill consolidation, that's a great question. Onboarding as a payer of telecom bills is a pain. And if it were easy, then becoming the payer of then dealing with telecom bill payment may not even be a problem. So basically, you would sign a contract with us for telecom bill consolidation, and we would work with you over a 2 to 3 month time frame to become the payer of record for all of your various telecom services, and then pick a specific line in sand time after we're onboarded fully and have also audited all of your bills and invoices, where you pay us and fund an account, and then we begin paying your bills. And we basically build toward that with a bespoke onboarding process. And then afterward, you're paying us. And we have liability so long as you pay us to ensure that your bills are paid accurately. It'll differ a little bit depending on the size of your enterprise, the quantity of your vendors, and the types of your bills. For example, certain international vendors can be more complicated, but hopefully that gives you a frame. And if we were to do a meeting, we could talk in more detail about the specifics of your particular onboarding circumstance.
So Dennis, why don't we jump to your demo, and then we can follow up on these questions after you do the demo. I think it would be good for you to walk people through that so they can kind of see exactly what it is you guys are delivering.
Got it. And before we get into the demo, one more question that was asked that I can't answer is
Oh,
someone asked who built our software. And
oh yeah.
we have an extremely talented engineering team in-house, so we don't do any outsourced engineering. This is all built in-house, and we are adding new features every single week to the product.
Great.
So let's get into a demo, and this demo may answer and or preempt some of the questions that may otherwise be asked. So here you can see the Lightyear dashboard. This is the home dashboard that you would see upon login. And as a reminder, Lightyear is, again, what we call the telecom operating system, the goal of which is to automate and digitize the full lifecycle for your telecom. And in this demo, I'll take you through the lifecycle of an individual service with Lightyear through procurement, network inventory manager, and bill consolidation. And it's worth noting that various components of this product are somewhat customizable and flexible to your specific vendor constraints or workflows. So don't think of what I show you as overly rigid and that it all has to work exactly this way. So this is what you'd see upon login. On the left-hand side, you can see a navigation pane that'll take you to different components of the product, like procurement, inventory, et cetera. In the middle, you can see some action items. So here I see some installs that are ongoing that have action items, some pending installs, and some stuff where there's installation complete where I need to confirm acceptance. On the right-hand side here, you can see there's a global search. Let's say I want to find an individual circuit that I have. Here are some point-to-point circuits. I can pull that up at any point. Some action items that may require review. So these are things that are ongoing in an install that could otherwise hold up progress in an install. And here I can start a new quote or deal with my team or permissioning. So let's first start with procurement, and let's create a new quote for a net new service. Let's say I have a site and I need to get a new dedicated service for that site. So multiple different ways to basically create a procurement request with Lightyear. You can upload a file. You can copy configurations. If you have used Lightyear before, all of your site configurations will be templatized, and you can copy those over to bypass this questionnaire, or you can configure a totally new service request. And we do all forms of internet connectivity, WAN connectivity, co-location, voice services. Let's keep it simple. Let's do a dedicated internet circuit. And once again, you can do this for one circuit. You can do this for 100 circuits at one time if you like. So let's get one circuit for a single site, and all of your sites here will be stored. Let's get something for Albuquerque, New Mexico site. And here I'm just going to configure a dedicated circuit need. So let's say I need a dedicated circuit with redundancy and static IPs. Let's say I want 300 megs of bandwidth, not going to use BGP routing. We want active redundancy. We want a /28. Contract term, some address details as relevant. I can denote also new construction. If it's new construction, doesn't even have an address, you can put in a latitude, longitude. If it's a mall, you can denote that. Provider considerations, additional comments, ideal install, and the option to schedule a meeting. So there you can see I just submitted a procurement request. That procurement request to submit took all of 30 seconds, even though I was talking over it. And you can get that done even faster via that templatized configuration as noted if you like. Now, what you don't see here is what's going on in the back end, which is even cooler than what is going on in the front end. So I just submitted that request, and our system is now using network intelligence to determine what vendors are on net or near net and should bid on that service. We're initiating bid requests with those vendors, and then those vendors will submit bids to us that we then run against our data set for a quality check to make sure that you're going to get a good price. After that, that is when you'll just get an email saying you got price quotes. So that can happen at various speeds depending on sort of what it is that you're quoting. But here you can see some individual price quotes. And here, sometimes you get a few price quotes, sometimes you get many. Here you can see 28 different internet circuit bids, one of which is still pending from Cogent. But you can see here in sort of an e-commerce style format, we'll present you with the vendor, their monthly cost, install interval, contract term, upload, download, transport type, static IP inclusion, who is the last mile provider. So you can see if someone is reselling another vendor's infrastructure, transport capacity, if an upgrade is important, the network AS number, delivery point, SLAs, comments. So you'll have everything in front of you for most enterprises as requisite to be able to make a decision on exactly what you want. And you can simply add services to cart and select a primary and or redundant circuit. And let's just say you have a lot of bids here. You can filter the bids in any way you'd want. Like let's say I only want to see the 200 meg speeds because it looks like I got a bunch of different bandwidth tiers and there's only one 200 meg bid. Maybe that is what I want. And that is where you can simply select quotes. And then from there, you can also sign contracts digitally. We'll actually store all of your like on-site contact or signature contact info, and you can e-sign contracts. And that is when you get to installations. And here we know that installs are typically the bane of an IT manager's or network engineer's existence. ISPs are not the friendliest with installs, so we've built a detailed installation tracker that will top to bottom project manage each job step of your install. So here you can see a bunch of different ongoing installs for an individual customer. And here in the Zayo install, you can see a bunch of different job steps that go into those install, what is completed, when it is expected to be complete, if it's not yet completed, what's in progress. And here I can also click in to the individual service and get granular job step level updates that are collected via email and allocated to the right install via our software. And also in one place, I'll have the location details, the general details on the install, like your install manager's and install PM's phone number and email will be listed right here. So you can see this being extremely useful to stay organized and on top of your installs live as you may be managing many of these at one time. Also, our team will stay on top of all of these installs. And if things are not progressing to timeline, we have proprietary escalation paths with carriers, and we will escalate issues proactively on your behalf to get you to a better outcome. Finally, with installs, we have this action item system where if there's something you need to do that could be holding up an install, we'll make sure that's flagged as an action item and put in front of you with reminders so that you don't let something slip through the cracks. Once your install is complete, we know that sometimes a vendor will say an install is complete, but it's not actually complete and you're not having a working service. So you have the opportunity to confirm or deny acceptance on a circuit, and you can denote that you have an issue with the circuit that we can then seek to rectify with the carrier proactively. So at that point in time, that's where we get to the network inventory manager and dashboard. Hopefully at that point you have an installed service, and hopefully you're happy that that service is working. And you have the job now of managing the lifecycle of that service along with the lifecycle of many other services. So once again, this network inventory manager is effectively that system of record for your enterprise network that tracks what is in your network in detail and automates a bunch of lifecycle management workflows like MACD ticketing, reshopping services prior to renewal, and more. So you're set up for continuous and automated cost optimization of your network. And once again, it's offered for free for services procured via Lightyear or for a SaaS fee if you'd like to onboard non-Lightyear procured services. So here's a hypothetical enterprise network with, call it a bunch of sites and 182 total services. So I can click into any individual site here, and I can see over 30 unique data points on the service that I click on at that site. So what's my provider account number, the status of the service, the circuit ID, the MRC, where's the delivery point of the circuit, all the carrier contact info, service specs, IP and DNS addresses, when does the contract end, it's all right here in front of you. So let's say you have an outage and you need to call the vendor, the number to call, and also the details on the service that you need in order to sort of like deal with the outage will be right here in front of you for all your services. Prior to renewal, we will actually automatically rebid these services on your behalf to see if you can get a better deal. And you can also place certain types of tickets on these services here that would be seen here. And you can open, for example, a move, add, change, or disconnect ticket. So if you need to disconnect a circuit, you can do that with clicks rather than phone calls. We'd see that through resolution. You can upload files. Your contract files will be stored by default. All service change logs will be noted here and stored here by default. And you can also take notes on the services you'd like. This map, you can sort of search through, sort, and filter. So let's say I want to see all my point-to-point circuits. I can pull those up and I can filter this in any way. Let's say I only want to see in progress circuits rather than all active circuits. You can also organize this in table view, where you can create views with custom columns and organize it by service, by location, by individual contract. You can edit columns. So let's say I want to see all my internet circuits with the availability SLAs listed, and then I can export that as a CSV, and I can filter this in any way that I'd like. So this is obviously if you want to get a granular individual service view, but we also have a dashboard that gives you a holistic view of your network inventory. This helps you basically track network spend over time holistically. You can visualize how that spend is distributed by service type. You can also see how that's distributed by individual vendor, by location, and by bandwidth cost tier. Also, proactively here, we will track opportunities for you to save money within your network that you can choose to take action on. So you can denote, for example, when is your spend expiring proactively? What services are coming out of term, in what sense, when, and you can actually dig into those. And we'll actually also go through what are your upcoming expirations, and then what are your month-to-month services, and based on our data set, where do you think these services could get bid to today, and what's the estimated monthly savings, where that you can click to request a reshop on proactively via our data set, and then we'll request that reshop. So if the savings opportunity is big, maybe you do want to request a reshop. If the savings opportunity is small, maybe you don't want to request a reshop, and we can try to renegotiate with your existing vendor. And then finally, we know that network engineers do not get enough credit internally. We will track all of your cost savings achieved. If you replace services, if you renegotiate services, if you disconnect services, we'll track all those cost savings, and you can actually track what those cost savings have led to date in terms of sort of run rate cost savings over time. And then finally, here's that ticket manager. So let's say you open a disconnect ticket. That is where we will see that through a resolution on your behalf and provide you with updates. Next, I'll quickly show you our bill consolidation service. So our bill consolidation service, this is where we'll tie exactly what's in your network from a contract perspective to actually what you're paying out month to month. We'll give you monthly individual bills. We'll give you the bill. It'll be allocated and organized in the way you want. You pay us, and then we'll handle your vendor payments. And then you will get detailed reporting on the costs in your network over time right here in your dashboard. So here's going to be your month-to-month actual dollar spend. And then here are your top service costs, your top cost increases. Our service is changing, and if so, why? Here are your monthly bills. You can dig into individualized, detailed reporting, and we'll even itemize each individual provider invoice in your network month to month, tie those to your individual services, and you can actually click into any individual invoice that you'd want, see an overview of that invoice, all the line items on the invoice, digitally itemized, what services that invoice ties to, and any checks and disputes. We'll proactively open disputes on your behalf. Finally, we have a calendar that'll store all important dates for you. You'll get notified of these via email, but if you wanted to see this in calendar format, you can see that here. We have an address system. You can edit and store all of your individual addresses here because location and information is important. And you have a message center. You can chat us at any time. You can request a meeting with us at any time. You can tag an individual service that you may want to ask about. You can upload a file if you'd like. And in the profile, you can actually manage your team. There's detailed roles and permission functionality. And finally, we have an API. So everything in Lightyear can push and pull from all of your other enterprise systems. So we're talking like ServiceNow, Netbox, Cisco Meraki, things can tie back and forth, and that's a thing that we can talk about with you. So that was a quick demo, and hopefully you can see here how this service can manage your full telecom lifecycle end to end. And see, we got some questions, so we can begin going through.
Yeah, Dennis, before you
questions.
jump into the questions, there's one thing I wanted to ask. The title of the webinar was, improving telecom procurement management with AI data automation. So I've got a two-part question. First of all, how do you collect the data you utilize, and how do you keep it up to date? And then the second part is talk about how you then utilize that to, perform automation using AI and machine learning.
Yes. So, and I actually see that's exactly a question that someone else asked. So,
Yeah, Mark asked it as well.
The primary issue in this space is one of data. This is a problem that has existed for decades. And the reason why Lightyear exists now, and there aren't 25 Lightyears doing what we're doing, is because this is a problem where putting the data together is extremely painful. So we've had to basically, over time, build up a custom and proprietary data set. We purchase all the data that's online. We collect millions and millions of data points from all that goes on within our service. We get data directly from vendors. We have API plugins locations. We consolidate all of this together, and we train algorithms to get better and better. And early on, we would have errors. We would make mistakes. But now things are getting much, much better. And we're working with the biggest enterprise and doing way better than either IT teams, or we are doing way better than vendors are doing for those specific customers, because vendors also don't even have the best handle on their own data oftentimes. So, point being is like, there's no magic button here that we've been able to press. It's been years of just hard grunt work and effort where we're still on the path to get better every single day.
And then how do you use that data, in terms of the AI automation angle?
Yeah, so there are a few key ways where we utilize data. One is in provider details for customers. We use data to give you responses more quickly. We use data to ensure that you're getting good pricing, and also that providers are forecasting performance in certain ways accurately. So those are three core ways we get data. And then we also utilize that same data within your network to audit and provide proactive savings opportunities. So, you buy our network inventory service, we'll provide an annual telecom expense audit. That expense audit is largely going to be driven by what is in our data set from an opportunity perspective for you. And then second, on the back end, you don't see this, but we use data to automate all sorts of workflows around provider things. So we actually have like self-hosted and self-trained large language models on the Lightyear data set. These are not like, we're not using OpenAI. This is all Lightyear internal hosted for security purposes, trained on Lightyear's data to provide better installation outcomes to customers, to deal with customer issues proactively, and also to ensure that you're getting the best possible support experience. That's a newer area for us, but it's a big area where we have the best data set in business telecom, and you can utilize that to drive detailed customer outcomes.
Great. Couple of questions here. We had one. Can you speak to your bill dispute process? Average time to resolution, how much time, energy should the buyer expect to spend on coordination with you to resolve, et cetera?
Yeah, that's a great question. And like this, I'll give you a guideline to think about it, but it's going to be a little bit of a non-answer. The reason why it's a non-answer is because we work with hundreds of telecom vendors, and the specific issue and the specific vendor we're working with will significantly impact the time to resolution. However, the thing that you can be confident of is our timeliness to recognize issues because we are auditing your bills monthly with a specific SLA on performance there. You will get issues recognized quickly, and we will open tickets quickly. And the goal will be to, we can't control on the vendor end exactly what is done to resolve your issue because we are not the vendor. But what we can do is operate as a squeaky wheel to ensure that you do the least work needed to resolve this issue. And two, that the vendor resolves your issue as quickly as possible.
Great.
Um, you
We had
know,
another question about construction costs for new circuit procurement. Was that factored into the equation, I guess?
that is. So by the way, our circuit bidding is automated, but it is not instant. What do I mean by that? So we will proactively, on an automated basis, open bid requests with vendors, recognize the right vendors, pre-negotiate bids down, but vendors still have to validate and vet the pricing and or timeline to install and or construction requirement for the circuit. So in the fields for quoting, we will provide you with detail on what to expect from a construction cost perspective and aim to be as accurate as possible. Sometimes vendors feed us bad data, and even then we try to at least recognize that. But we try to be accurate with you and proactively forecast, is this going to be a lengthening install with construction required? And is that going to elevate costs? We'll aim to sort of denote that to you in the process there.
Yeah. Mark had a couple of questions here. I didn't know which ones you wanted to answer first.
Let's see. And so Mark is asking, enterprises just want transparent access to their multi-cloud applications. Do you leave that to the service providers, or do simply access their apps in the same way that you broker network choices? So, it is just worth noting that we don't do cloud or SaaS service brokerage or selling via our platform. It's purely the link layer stuff that we're dealing with. So anything about your enterprise applications will not be in the product. And there is a question. There are a couple of questions from Mark about security. And without getting into specifics, we adhere to very strict security requirements. And for all the Fortune 500 enterprises we work with, we have to go through security attestations and security tests and security questionnaires. We're actually, for a specific customer right now, doing a dedicated penetration test into our software to vet their security. So we are deeply vetted from a security perspective to work with the enterprise, because we know that if we're not secure, enterprises, there's no way we're going to get worked with.
Right. Another question just came in from Jeff.
Oh, this is a good question. How do you partner with ISPs, and to what extent do you continually develop and improve those relationships? So we partner with ISP. So ISPs are core to our service. I know that, in the start of this, I kind of shit on ISPs a little bit with regard to how they perform for customers, and I do stand by what I said. But it's also true that if we don't make ISPs happy and have fruitful partnerships, we're not going to be able to deliver our service to customers. So we have direct partnerships with ISPs, and with all the major ISPs, we actually have dedicated support and resourcing allocated to Lightyear to make sure that our customers are having a great experience. And it's a two-sided coin. We also have certain duties to those ISPs to make sure that we are facilitating our end of the bargain in terms of how we handle dealings, like how we quote their services, how we project manage installs, and that we take some of the pain off their back as well to help them look better. So that's where basically, it's a two-sided coin, and we have a healthy relationship with all of our ISP partners. And the better ISPs do for us, the more business they end up getting, and the better they look in the face of their customers, which ends up being a win-win-win. We only want ISPs to do better for their customers.
Another question just came in the chat, which was same question as the ISP, but for co-location and data center partners. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so the answer for data center co-location partners is largely the same as for ISPs, meaning we'll sign agreements with the co-location vendors, we get dedicated resourcing, and we will aim to basically project manage your customer relationships. And the specific nuances there are a bit different because, co-location, it's not like you're installing a circuit, you're installing rack server and power. And so it's a bit different, but our platform works in the same way.
A couple more just came in the Q&A.
So do you provide your service for public sector entities too? The answer is yes, with an asterisk, meaning if you're a public sector entity that can buy kind of like an enterprise buys, which we have customers like that, we can absolutely work with you. But if you have major constraints that prevent you from using software to buy telecom or buying software to buy telecom, that's where maybe our software would not work as well for you. So the answer depends, depending on the public sector entity. And that's where I would recommend you reach out and perhaps we can have a discussion. Second question was asked about how can ISPs leverage your services internally? That's a great question. Some of the biggest buyers in network in the world are ISPs. So one of our biggest verticals of success has been ISP customers. So for small and mid-market, it's not like AT&T is a customer of Lightyear. They buy network in a highly specific manner, but lots of like mid-market and smaller ISPs utilize Lightyear either for network inventory management, for bill payment, for purchases of new circuit, sometime to buy wholesale circuits. So if you think that could be useful and you see value in what you saw, reach out and we can work with you. We have fruitful relationship with lots of ISPs, even like SD-WAN vendors to build their middle mile network, things of that nature.
Great. I think we may have covered all the questions. Looking at the Q&A and the chat, I think all the questions have come in. Dennis, is there anything else you'd add? Or if not, I think we could wrap this up. And I just encourage folks that do have any follow-up questions just to reach out to Lightyear, and I'm sure they're going to be happy to get right back to you.
Yeah, the important thing to ask is like for Natalie who was in chat. She's actually one of our customers, and I recognize the name. I know which company you work at. Natalie, thank you for providing some kudos to us. She's a customer that's had a good experience with Lightyear. Grateful for all of the questions, and thank you for everyone watching. Check us out at lightyear.ai. You can go to our website, you can click demo request or submit a questionnaire and sign up. And we'll make sure via email you get information on how to get in touch with us if you'd like. And yes, the recording will be available.
Yes. Yeah. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you, Dennis. I think this was very informative, and best of luck with Lightyear going forward. So everyone have a great day.
Awesome. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.